Mobile stand. This is the new stand I have bought. Ordered it on so it can be twisted any way that we like. So we'll just test it. So I'm just testing it. So that's the new mobile stand. I'm just testing it. It got delivered yesterday evening. So let's see how it works. Guess it's right. Oh goodness, where did I put my glasses? Where did I put my glasses? Hi guys, whoever is watching live, please say hi in the live chat. Hi guys, whoever is watching live, please say hi. My goodness, I think I should comb my hair, basically. Okay, there. I'm sorry for that delay. Okay. Nafis Essa says no. Oi. Hi Nafis Essa. Where are you from? Nafis Essa says hi. Hi Nafis Essa. Where are you from? What are you doing? I'd like to know what you're doing. How old are you? Nafis Essa. Strawberry shortcake said hi. Hi shortcake. Hi strawberry shortcake. Hi Ensar. Nafiz Hassa says Ensar. What is Ensar? Let me check on Google. Nafiz Ersa says Ensar and strawberry shortcake said hi. Okay. Strawberry shortcake said hi and Nafiz Ensar. What is Ensar meaning? It says a baby name, Turkish name. It's an Ansar. Ansar, all respect. Nafis. Okay, whatever that is, I have. No, Nafis Asa says no. Okay, 6 people are watching live. Hi guys. Please say, please say hi. I'm still, my mind is reeling, thinking about Bihar elections. I haven't yet come out of that mind's mode. It's still on, my mind is still processing Bihar election results and everything. So, anybody would like to talk about Bihar elections? You have something to say? Please do say something. So, anybody who would like to say anything about. Okay. If nobody else is watching, what am I? 2 people gave a like, but I don't know why they have given a like, who they are, why they are giving like. Nafiz Ersa says no. Strawberry shortcake says hi. Hi. So I'm just doing this too. Okay. What's the point in? शिवम, क्या आप डॉक्टर हो? शिवम जी, नहीं नहीं, मैं डॉक्टर नहीं। कभी था, लेकिन अभी नहीं। शिवम जी, मैं डॉक्टर नहीं। क्या डॉक्टर जैसा लगता हूँ क्या? दाढ़ी दाढ़ी के कारण या ये चश्मा के कारण? किस लिए और क्यों मैं डॉक्टर जैसा लगता हूँ? बोलिए। नॉट ए डॉक्टर। Okay, so guys, I have no interest in small talk, little talk. I'm not looking for girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. So I'm just looking for somebody to debate me, who would involve me. So you can please just send email to. Oh, I didn't put up the email ID in the. I think it's very difficult, this email ID. So probably let me look up my other thing. It should visit channel just 50, so probably they won't allow me to do a live. So what happened? Somebody, Shivam removed his current comment or what? शिवम शिवम भाई, आप अपने कमेंट को निकाल दिया। आप अपने कमेंट को निकाल दिया शिवम भाई। आप अपने कमेंट को निकाल दिया। क्या आप डॉक्टर हो? आपने कमेंट को निकाल दिया। आई एम सॉरी। आप मेरे कोई बात से हर्ट हो गए क्या? किसी को हर्ट करना मेरा मेरा इंटेंशन नहीं है। किसी को हर्ट करना नहीं है मेरा इंटेंशन। Okay, strawberry shortcake and Nafis. Ersa said hi and they haven't removed their comments. But unfortunately, somebody else removed. I don't know why, what to do. So, what can I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? I think I'll check whether my friend is there. He hasn't yet woken up. I've sent him a text message saying, do text me. It's Brahma Muhurtam and I'm waiting for you to join me live. My lord. Okay, I've sent him a text. He hasn't yet woken up. No, he hasn't. So let's see how it goes. And I'm waiting for you to join me live. Okay, he hasn't woken up. So after Nafis Erza, nobody else is watching or nobody else is commenting probably. Let me just, oh, it has no such options. Okay. Okay, 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 okay. Okay. Yes, I'll abide by community guidelines. Sure. Oh, so this cute lady is sleeping. I don't know whether I might be violating copyright laws because I'm just transmitting it. It looks like some Pragani talk. This lady is sleeping. But she's kept the camera on while sleeping, and there's her son sleeping beyond her. Cute. And somebody else, a lady, she is talking to her friends. Not going to watch that. I'm good, sis. Mommy and Biddy. Hajra says, I'm good. How about you? It's a Telugu guy. He's speaking something in Telugu. Let's see who is this guy. Kaja Kuwait Vlogs. He's Kaja from Kuwait Vlogs. Kuwait, he's just there in Kuwait and probably getting bored and అర్ధరాత్రి ముచ్చట్లు సరదాగా కువైట్లో ఆ విషయాలు మాట్లాడుకుందాం రండి, వచ్చేయండి మాట్లాడుకుందాం. నమస్కారం అందరికీ. కువైట్ల గల్ఫ్ జీవితాలు, కువైట్ చూద్దాం రండి. లైవ్ ప్లీజ్ సపోర్ట్ చేయండి. కువైట్ లైవ్ 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. ఓకే, లైవ్ రావడం లేదు. కువైట్ ఎలా ఉన్నారు అందరూ? సరదాగా మాట్లాడుకుందాం. ఈరోజు చాలా బాధగా ఉంది. మానిటైజ్ కంప్లీట్లీ. వెల్కమ్. ఓకే, మెంబర్షిప్ తీసుకున్న వాళ్ళు కువైట్ వెల్కమ్. చూద్దాం రండి, ప్రమోషన్ చేద్దాం. ఇంత పెద్ద గిఫ్ట్ ఇచ్చారు. మానిటైజ్. హీస్ అబౌట్ మానిటైజ్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ ఈస్ హీ ట్రైంగ్ టు డూ? 1 year ago కువైట్లో ఈరోజు నా డ్యూటీ కష్టాలు. కువైట్ నుంచి కాజా, సౌదీ నుండి జావేద్. కువైట్ గురించి మీ ప్రశ్నలు, నా సమాధానాలు. కువైట్ సలూన్ వెల్కమ్ మై లైఫ్. రంజాన్, కువైట్లో రంజాన్. ఓకే, వెల్కమ్ టు మై ఫస్ట్ లైఫ్ 8 months ago. Okay, so this guy is doing from Kuwait. Okay, I have no idea. Shots, let's see how many shots he has put up. Knife world, little things, pet zone. Okay, Kuwait mountain. Okay, what is coming up? What is this? A pinned message. Everyone like and subscribe. Title, where is the title? Title doesn't come up. What comes there? A news is so how does somebody find me? So channel title doesn't come. What comes? One second. If I'm checking, what comes there? The title doesn't come. Title comes here. Okay. Title is not there. So what we have to do, what is to be done? This lady is still sleeping. Good. This lady is talking. This lady girl is talking. This guy is playing. And he's streaming here. Screen. Nice people are talking. It's Shruti. Oh my god. title is not easily visible, so what's to. So, how do you watch? How do we find out? So, when you type, say I'm gonna read a book. This is the book I'm going to read. This is the book I'm going to read now. So let's see how it goes. Where did I come? How long? Is there anybody? No, no one has commented. No one has commented, so I'm just going to go ahead with my reading. Khotan. Where is Khotan? I'll just check. Reading something about Khotan. Khotan. Ancient kingdom. Khotan, ancient kingdom. Khotan was an ancient Buddhist kingdom located on the southern Silk Road, south of the Taklamakan Desert. The Khotanese people were descended from Persian or Indic immigrants from the west and Chinese immigrants from the east. Khotan was a center for trade, with jade being its most valuable product. Okay, Kingdom of Khotan. Kingdom of Khotan, where was it located? Kingdom of Khotan, also called the Kingdom of Yutian, was an ancient Buddhist Saka kingdom located on the branch of the Silk Road that ran along the southern edge of the Taklamakan Desert in the Tarim Basin, modern day Xinjiang. The ancient capital was originally sited to the west of modern day Khotan at Yotkan. From the Han Dynasty until at least the Tang Dynasty, it was known in Chinese as Yutian. This largely Buddhist kingdom existed for over 1,000 years until it was conquered by the Muslim Kara Khanate in 1006 during the Islamization and Turkicization of Xinjiang. Kingdom of Khotan, circa 300 BC to 1006 AD. Kingdom of Khotan, above Zanskar and Purushapura. Okay, so that's the map of Khotan that I'm checking right now. Okay, so Khotan is like, okay, this is the map of Khotan I'm right now checking. Yarkand, oh, okay, Yarkand is part of this. The southern part of Taklamakan Desert was Kingdom of Khotan. So, who ruled Khotan? Keria, Kimo, Karkan, Yarkand. Okay. Khotan. Built on an oasis, Khotan's mulberry groves allowed the production and export of silk and carpets, in addition to the city's other major products such as its famous nephrite jade and pottery. Despite being a significant city on the Silk Road as well as a notable source of jade for ancient China, Khotan itself is relatively small. The circumference of the ancient city of Khotan at Yotkan was about 2.5 to 3.2 kilometers. Much of the archaeological evidence of the ancient city of Khotan, however, had been obliterated due to centuries of treasure hunting by local people. The inhabitants of Khotan spoke Khothanese, or an Eastern Iranian language belonging to the Saka language, and Gandhari Prakrit, an Indo-Aryan language related to Sanskrit. There is debate as to how much Khotan's original inhabitants were ethnically and anthropologically Indo-Aryan and speakers of the Gandhari language versus the Saka, an Indo-European people of Iranian branch from the Eurasian steppe. From the 3rd century onwards, they also had a visible linguistic influence on the Gandhari language spoken at the royal court of Khotan. The Khothanese Saka language was also recognized as an official court language by the 10th century and used by the Khothanese rulers for administrative documentation. Names. The kingdom of Khotan was given various names and transcriptions, and the name as written by the locals also changed over time. In about the 3rd century AD, the local people were Khotana in Kharoshti script, and Havatana in the Brahmi script sometime later. From this came Vamna and Vam in their latest texts, where Hamkshira or the land of Khotan was the name given. Khotan became known to the west while the T was still unchanged, as is frequent in early New Persian. The local people also used Gaustana, Gostana, Gostana, Godana, Godaniya, or Kustana under the influence of Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit, and Yutina in the 9th century when it was allied with the Chinese kingdom of Shachu, Shazu, or Dunhuang. The ancient Chinese called Khotan Yutian. Its ancient pronunciation was Givodien or Jiudian, also written in Chinese characters and other similar sounding names such as Yudun, Huodan, and Kudan. Sometimes they also used Jusadanna, derived from Indo-Iranian Gostan and Gostana, the names of the town and region around it respectively. Others include Huana. To the Tibetans in the 7th and 8th centuries, the kingdom was called Li or Liul, and the capital city Huden, and Vyuden. General location of Khotan within the Saka realm. Saka, and contemporary Asian polities. So Khotan. On northwest of Khotan was Shule, northeast Subeshi, Yueji, Wusun, Shajing, Ordos culture, and on top on near in Gobi Deserts, Yongnu, and in Siberian territory, Mongolian territory, Chalman, Sagli, Tagar, Azairik, Korganta, Sakas, Sargat. Sakas was exactly central. And in Jin culture in Koreas, Han Dynasty in China, and in southwest of China, Dayan culture. Sabaeans in south of Arabia, Seleucid Empire in the Persian Gulf area, Parthia, Greco-Bactrian, Sarmatians in between in the north of Caucasus, and Scythians on top of Baltic Sea. Ptolemies in Egypt and Meroe in upper Egypt. Sorry. So, is there somebody who has sent some message? Is there? What happened? Comments disappeared. रिहान राजपूत, नीली परी पीली परी कमरे में बंद है, मुझे नदियाँ पसंद है. Hi Rihan Rajput. Rihan Rajput, you're sending me poetry. Thank you. Neeli Pari. I think it is Neeli Pari. Okay. Neeli Pari, Pili Pari. कमरे में बंद है, मुझे नदियाँ पसंद है. अरे भाई, क्या वाह 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 वाह, क्या बोला आपने. नीली परी पीली परी कमरे में बंद है, मुझे नदियाँ पसंद है. Rihan Rajput says that. Okay. Rihan Rajput. Let's see what this Rihan Rajput. Rihan Rajput 2. Rihan Rajput. I cannot go to this channel of the commenter. Why? YouTube, you should add. YouTube, you should do that. When somebody comments, we should be able to go to their channel and see who that person is. How am I supposed to go into his channel? YouTube guys, if you are watching, please somebody tell YouTube that, when you click a person's name or icon in comment section, it should take us to their channel. that would be better, because I don't know how I can go and see who this guy Rihan Rajput is and what all videos he's putting up. No way. Okay, Rihan Rajput, I don't think you are watching. रेहान राजपूत भाई, अगर आप अभी देख रहे हो तो कृपया फिर से हाय बोलिए। आप मुझे कॉल कर सकते हैं 9443555178 पे, 9443555178, 9443555178. You can call me on that number and we'll have a conversation. I'm sorry I missed your comment. The geographical position of Oasis was the main factor in its success and wealth. To its north is one of the most arid and desolate desert climates on the earth, the Taklamakan Desert, and to its south, the largely uninhabited Kunlun Mountains or Kurram. To the east, there were few oases beyond Nia, making travel difficult, and access is only relatively easy from the west. Khotan was irrigated from the Urum Kush and Karakash rivers, which water the Tarim Basin. These two rivers produce vast quantities of water, which made habitation possible in an otherwise arid climate. The location next to the mountain not only allowed irrigation for crops, but also increased the fertility of the land as the rivers reduced the gradient and deposited sediment on their banks, creating a more fertile soil. This more fertile soil increased the agricultural productivity that made Khotan famous for its cereal crops and fruit. Therefore, Khothan's lifeline was its proximity to the Kunlun mountain range, and without it, Khothan would and not have become one of the largest and most successful oasis cities along the Silk Roads. The kingdom of Khothan was one of the many small states found in the Tarim Basin, which included Yarkand, Lulan, Shanshan, Turfan, Kashgar, Karashar, and Kucha. The last three, together with Khotan, made up the four garrisons during the Tang dynasty. To the west were the Central Asian kingdoms of Sogdiana and Bactria. It was surrounded by powerful neighbors such as the Kushan Empire, China, Tibet, and for a time the Xiongnu, all of which had tried to exert their influence over Khotan at various times. History. From an early period, the Tarim Basin had been inhabited by different groups of Indo-European speakers such as Tokharians and the Saka people. Jade from Khotan had been traded into China for a long time before the founding of the city, as indicated by items made of jade from Khotan found in tombs from the Shang, Yin, and Zhou dynasties. The jade trade is thought to have been facilitated by the USG. This trade helped the kingdom hold influence over the surrounding regions. It remained an important supplier of jade to China and the whole of Central Asia. Foundation legend. Manuscript in Khotan is from Dandan Oilik, northeast of Khotan, now held in the British Library. There are four versions of the legend of the founding of Khotan. It is important to note that these legends were not contemporary or primary accounts. They were written centuries after the kingdom was founded. These may be found in accounts given by the Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang and in Tibetan translations of Khothanese documents. All four versions suggest that the city was founded around the 3rd century BC by a group of Indians during the reign of Ashoka. According to one version, the nobles of a tribe in ancient Taxila, who traced their ancestry to the deity Vaishravana, were said to have blinded Kunala, a son of Ashoka. In punishment, they were banished by the Mauryan emperor to the north of the Himalayas, where they settled in Khotan and erected one of their members as king. However, war then ensued with another group from China, whose leader then took over as king, and the two colonies merged. In a different version, it was Kunala himself who was exiled and founded Khotan. The legend suggests that Khotan was settled by people from northwest India and China and may explain the division of Khotan into an eastern and western city since the Han dynasty. Others, however, argued that the legend of the founding of Khotan is a fiction as it ignores the Iranian population and that its purpose was to explain the Indian and Chinese influences that were present in Khotan in the 7th century AD. By Xuanzang's account, it was believed that the royal power had been transmitted unbroken since the founding of Khotan, and evidence indicates that the kings of Khotan had used an Iranian based word as their title since at least the 3rd century AD, suggesting that they may be speakers of an Iranian language. In the 1900s, R.L. Stein discovered Prakrit documents written in Kharoshthi in Nia, and together with the founding legend of Khotan, Stein proposed that these people in the Tarim Basin were Indian immigrants from Taxila who conquered and colonized Khotan. The use of Prakrit, however, may be a legacy of the influence of the Kushan Empire. There were also Greek influences in early Khotan, based on evidence such as Hellenistic artworks found at various sites in the Tarim Basin. For example, the Sampul tapestry found near Khotan, tapestries depicting the Greek god Hermes and the winged Pegasus found at nearby Laulan, as well as ceramics that may suggest influences from as far as the Hellenistic kingdom of Ptolemaic Egypt. One suggestion is therefore that the early migrants to the region may have been an ethnically mixed people from the city of Taxila, led by a Greco-Saka or an Indo-Greek leader, who established Khotan using the administrative and social organizations of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. In Tibetan literature, a long list of Indian kings is preserved. Sten Konov, the Norwegian Indologist who critically examined the different versions of the tradition, concluded as follows. Kustana, the son of Ashoka, is said to have founded the royal dynasty of Khotan. But Kustana's son, Yuela, who is said to have founded the capital of the kingdom, is most probably identical with the king Yulin, mentioned in the Chinese chronicles as ruling over Khotan about the middle of the 1st century AD. Yula was succeeded by his son Vijita Shambhava, with whom begins a long series of Khotan kings, all begin with Vijita. If there is any truth in the Chinese statement that Weiqi or Vijita was the family name of the kings, it is of interest to note that this Vijita dynasty, according to the Tibetan tradition, begins where the Han annals place the foundation of the national Khotan kingdom. Buddhism was introduced into Khotan in the 5th year of Vijita Sambhava. 11 kings followed, and then came Vijita Dharma, who was a powerful ruler and always engaged in war. Later, he became a Buddhist and retired to Kashgar. We know from Chinese sources that Kashgar had formerly developed great power, but it became dependent on Khotan during AD 220 to 264. It is then probable that this was the time of the powerful king Vijayadharma. Vijayadharma was followed on the throne by his son Vijayashimha and the latter by his son Vijitakirti. Vijitakirti is said to have carried war into India and to have overthrown Saketa together with King Kanika or the king of Kanika. And the Guzan king, Guzan here evidently stands for Kushana. According to the oldest detailed Chinese and Tibetan texts, including a Tibetan text which may be contemporary, which we cannot distrust, the colonizing groups of exiled Indians, including the son and ministers of Emperor Ashoka, founded the kingdom of Khotan. The various manuscripts found in the region surrounding Khotan come from various time periods ranging from the 5th to the 10th centuries. The language used in these manuscripts, although seemingly different, are written in Khotanese with variations in their styles. The history of the Khotanese language has three main periods: Old Khotanese, Middle Khotanese, and Late Khotanese. The first period was active in the 5th and 6th centuries. Middle was during the 7th and 8th centuries, with the late being used in the 9th and 10th centuries. Arrival of the Saka. A document from Khotan written in Khotanese Saka, part of the Eastern Iranian branch of the Indo-European languages, listing the animals of the Chinese zodiac in the cycle of predictions for people born in that year, ink on paper, early 9th century. Ruins of the Ravak Stupa outside of Khotan, a Buddhist site dated from the late 3rd to 5th century. That's the picture. Surviving documents from Khotan of later centuries indicate that the people of Khotan spoke the Saka language, an Eastern Iranian language that was closely related to the Sogdian language of Sogdiana. As an Indo-European language, Saka was more distantly related to the Tocharian languages, also known as Agnian Kuchian, spoken in adjoining areas of the Tarim Basin. It also shared aerial features with Tocharian. It is not certain when the Saka people moved into the Khotan area. Archaeological evidence from the Sampul tapestry of Sampul, Shanpulu near Khotan may indicate a settled Saka population in the last quarter of the first millennium BC, although some have suggested they may not have moved there until after the founding of the city. The Saka may have inhabited other parts of the Tarim Basin earlier. Presence of a people believed to be Saka had been found in the Keria region at Yumulak Kum, Jombalak Kum, Yuansha, around 200 kilometers east of Khotan, possibly as early as the 7th century BC. The Saka people were known as the Sai, Sek in Old Sinitic in ancient Chinese records. These records indicate that they originally inhabited the Ili and Chu river valleys of modern Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. In the Chinese Book of Han, the area was called the Land of the Sai, that is the Saka. According to the Sima Qian's Shiji, the Indo-European Yuezhi, originally from the area between Tangri Tag, that is Xianshan, and Dunhuang of Gansu, China, were assaulted and forced to flee from the Hexi corridor of Gansu by the forces of the Xiongnu ruler Modu Chanyu in 177 to 176 BC. In turn, the Yuezhi were responsible for attacking and pushing the Sai, that is the Saka, south. The Saka crossed the Sith Darya into Bactria around 140 BC. Later, the Saka would also move into northern India as well as other Tarim Basin sites like Khotan, Karashar, Yanki, Yarkand, that is Shache, and Kucha or Quichi. One suggestion is that the Saka became Hellenized in the Greco-Bactrian kingdom and they or an ethnically mixed Greco-Scythians either migrated to Yarkand and Khotan or a bit earlier from Taxila in the Indo-Greek kingdom. Documents written in Prakrit dating to the 3rd century AD from neighboring Shanshan show that the king of Khotan was given the title Hinaja, that is Generalissimo, a distinctively Iranian-based word equivalent to the Sanskrit title Senapati. This, along with the fact that the king's recorded regnal periods were given as Khotanese Kshuna, implies an established connection between the Iranian inhabitants and the royal power, according to the late professor of Iranian studies, Ronald E. Emmerich, dated 2001. He contended that Khotanese Saka language, royal rescripts of Khotan dated to the 10th century, makes it likely that the ruler of Khotan was a speaker of Iranian. Furthermore, he elaborated on the early name of Khotan. The name of Khotan is attested in a number of spellings, of which the oldest form is Swatana. In texts of approximately the 7th to 10th century AD, written in an Iranian language itself called Hwatana by the writers. The same name it is attested also in two closely related Iranian dialects, Sogdian and Tumshuk. Attempts have accordingly been made to explain it as Iranian, and this is of some importance historically. My own preference is for an explanation connecting it semantically with the name Saka. For the Iranian inhabitants of Khotan spoke a language closely related to that used by the Sakas in the northwest of India from the 1st century BC onwards. Later Khotanese Saka language documents, ranging from medical texts to Buddhist literature, have been found in Khotan and Tumshuk, east of Kashgar. Similar documents in the Khotanese Shaka language, dating mostly to the 10th century, have been found in Durmiang. Early period, we'll go to early period. Let's just check what is. Has anybody else commented after Rihan Rajput? हेलो रिहान राजपूत. ये नंबर क्यों? मेरी एज 16. अच्छा, 16 साल के हैं. सॉरी रिहान राजपूत. रिहान राजपूत, इफ यू कॉल मी और यू कैन सेंड मी, आप मुझे कॉल किए तो मैं आपको लाइव में मुझसे ज्वाइन करने के लिए लिंक भेज सकता हूं. आप मुझसे लाइव में ज्वाइन करेंगे, आधा आपका वीडियो होगा, आधा मेरा वीडियो होगा, हम दोनों बात कर सकते हैं. इसीलिए मैं मेरा नंबर बताया, और कोई नहीं. और कुछ बात नहीं. आप और ईमेल भी भेज सकते हैं. UNMAIYATHENIL@gmail.com. ये ईमेल पे आप जीमेल भी भेज सकते हैं. आप ईमेल भेजे तो मैं आपको लिंक भेजूंगा. इसीलिए मैंने आपको अपना फ़ोन नंबर बताया. रिहान राजपूत भाई, अगर आप देख रहे हैं तो कृपया early period. Coin of Gurgamoya, king of Khotan. Khotan, 1st century AD. Obverse, Kharosthi legend. This is the coin. In the 2nd century AD, a Khotanese king helped the famous ruler Kanishka of the Kushan Empire of South Asia, founded by the Yuezhi people, to conquer the key town of Saket in the Middle Kingdoms of India. Afterwards, King Vijayakriti or Kirti, I think they have wrongly, for whom a manifestation of the Arya Manjushri, the Arhat called Spipri, who was propagating religion or dharma in Kamshen, a district of Khotan, was acting as pious friend. Through being inspired with faith, built the Vihara of Shruno. Originally King Kanika, the king of Guzar or Kucha, and the Li, the Khotanese ruler, King Vijayakirti, Kriti, and others led an army into India, and when they captured the city so-called Soket or Saketa, King Vijaya Kriti obtained many relics and put them in the stupa of Shruno, prophecy of the Li country. The above quote comes from the prophecy of the Li country. According to chapter 96a of the book of Han, covering the period from 126 BC to 23 AD, Khotan had 303,300 households, 19,300 individuals, and 2,400 people able to bear arms. Eastern Han period. Ceramic figure with Western influences, Yogka near Khotan, 2nd to 4th century AD. It looks like a Naga, the photo of somebody in a Naga. It's like a Naga head. It looks like Naga head. Curious. Minted coins from Khotan dated to the 1st century AD bear dual inscriptions in Chinese and Gandhari Prakrit in the Kharosti script, showing links of Khotan to India and China in that period. Khotan began to exert its power in the 1st century AD. It was first ruled by Yarkand but revolted in 25 to 57 AD and took Yarkand and the territory as far as Kashgar, thereby gaining control over part of the southern Silk Road. The town grew very quickly after local trade. Okay. Hasn't seen the message. Let me call him. Where is my friend? I'm calling my friend. I'm calling my friend. I'm calling my friend. I'm calling my friend. My lord, எங்க இருக்கீங்கோ? My lord, எங்க இருக்கீங்க? எங்க my lord இருக்கீங்க? இவ்வளோ காலையில எங்க போனீங்க? என்ன என்ன ஷூட் விசேஷம்? பால் ப்ரொடக்ஷன். ஓகே 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 வாழ்த்துக்கள் வாழ்த்துக்கள் வாழ்த்துக்கள். போய் ஷூட் பண்ணுங்க. நீங்கள் ரிட்டர்ன் எத்தனை நீங்கள் வரும்போது எனக்கு கால் பண்ணுங்கள். நம்ம லைவில் நான் உங்களுக்கு லிங்க் அனுப்புகிறேன். ஓகே. நீங்கள் இவ்வளோ காலையில் ஷூட் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா நான் இன்னொருத்தருக்கு பண்ண சொல்லி நான் உங்களை அனுப்பியிருப்பேனே. இருங்க இருங்க, லைவில் அவரோட பேரெல்லாம் ரிவீல் பண்ணக்கூடாது. நான் உங்களுக்கு வாட்ஸ்அப்பில் அவர் யாருன்னு அனுப்புகிறேன். ஏன் யாரையும் தொல்லை பண்ணுறேன்? நான் யாரையும் தொல்லை பண்ணல. யார் என்னோட லைவ் யார் பார்க்க போறா? சொல்லுங்க, எத்தனை பேர் பார்க்க போறாங்க என்னோட லைவ் போய்? ஸோ நான் ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் பிளான் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். நம்ம ரயில்வே நண்பர் இருக்காருல்ல, அவரும் நானும் சேர்ந்து ஒரு 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 மாசமா அவரோட மல்லு கட்டிக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன். டெய்லி சண்டே ஆகும். நான் இனிமே உங்களுக்கு கால் பண்ண மாட்டேன். நான் நான் நீங்க செய்ய மாட்டீங்க அப்படின்னு அவரை நான் வந்து இது பண்ணிட்டு விட்டுட்டு வந்துருவேன். அப்புறம் மறுபடியும் அவர் வந்து ஃபோன் பண்ணுவாரு. ஜி ஏன் ஜி இப்படி போயிடுறீங்க? அப்படிலாம் விடுக்கு விடுக்குன்னு போயிடாதீங்க ஜி. நம்ம செய்வோம் ஜி அப்படின்னு. உங்க கமெண்ட் அவ்வளவு தூரத்துக்கு எட்டுமான்னு தெரில மயில. நல்லா இருக்கு. பொண்ணா பிறக்க வேண்டியவர் ஆமனா பிறந்துட்டாரு. பொண்ணு மாதிரி கோச்சுக்கிறாரு இவரு. நல்லா இருக்கு உங்க கமெண்ட். ஓகே. ஸோ அவரு அது ஒரு மாசமா அது அவர் 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 செய்வாருன்னு நம்பி நான் அவருக்கு பின்னாடி போனேன். ஆனா அவரு அஃப்கோர்ஸ் அவர் செய்ய மாட்டாருங்கிறதுக்கு வந்து சிக்கல்கள் அவருக்கு இருக்க தான் செய்யுது. ஏன் அப்படின்னா அவர் குடும்பஸ்தர். அண்ட் அவரோட ஒய்ஃப் வேற கன்சீவாக இருக்காங்க. ஆல்மோஸ்ட் 8th மந்த் இது. ஒரு குழந்தை இருக்கு. ஒரு பாப்பா இருக்கு. நெக்ஸ்ட்டு பாபு வரப்போறாருல. தெரியாது. நெக்ஸ்ட்டும் பாப்பாவா இருந்தா தாய் வழி சமூகம் வளரும். அஹ், இல்ல தம்பியா இருந்தா உங்ககிட்ட அனுப்பிச்சு விட்டுறலாம். அஹ். நானும் அப்படித்தான் நினைக்கிறேன். சரி ஏற்கனவே 2 பாப்பா இருக்குது. மூணாவது தம்பி வரட்டும் அவருக்கு அப்படின்ட்டு. ஆனா நமக்கு தெரியாது இல்லையா? இயற்கை என்ன வச்சிருக்குது அவருக்கு, அவரோட விதியில. அது ஆசை அப்படி இருக்கும். ம், அவ்வளவுதான். ம், இல்ல நான் நினைக்கிறேன் ஆக்சுவலா அவர் ரொம்ப நல்லா வளர்ப்பாருன்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். ஒரு பெண்களை தான் அவருக்கு சுத்தமா புரியலன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஆஹ், யாருக்கு தான் புரிஞ்சுதுன்னு கேட்கலாம் நீங்க அடுத்த கேள்வி. ஆனா அவருக்கு அவருக்கு அவர் வந்து பசங்க ஒரு 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 ஆம்பளை பையனா நல்லா வளர்ப்பாருன்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். அவருக்கு அவருக்கு அந்த சின்ன சின்ன பசங்களோட இன்டராக்ட் பண்ற, டக்குன்னு அவங்களோட ஜெல் ஆயிடுற ஒரு மன அமைப்பு இருக்குது. அதனால அவர் ஒரு நானும் ஆசைப்படுறேன் ஒரு பையன் பிறக்கணும்னு. ஸோ சரி இன்னைக்கு நேற்று ஈவினிங் பயங்கர கடுப்பேற்றி விட்டார். அதனால சரி உங்கடாப்பா, இவர் அவர் அவரை ஒரு லெவலுக்கு மேலே புஷ் பண்ண வேண்டாமே. சரி நம்ம நம்ம வேலையை பார்ப்போம். 24/7 லைவ் பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னு. அஹ், ஏன் இல்ல அவர் வேலை சிம்பிள் தானே. அவர் 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 என்ன ஃபோனே பண்ணலைன்னா நான் அவருக்கு வந்து அவரை டிஸ்டர்பே பண்ண மாட்டேன் தமிழ். உங்களுக்கு தான் தெரியுமே நான் யாரையாவது வேணும்னு டிஸ்டர்ப் பண்ற ஆளா? அஹ்? இருங்க இந்த அட்வைஸ் சொல்றேன் நான். தமிழோட அட்வைஸ் இப்படி இருக்குங்க அப்படின்னு. ஸோ அவருக்கு தெரில ஏதோ ஒன்று ஏதோ ஒரு இடத்துல அது விட்ட குறை தொட்ட குறை நிற்கிது. அதனால அவர் வந்து எனக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணிக்கின்னு இது பண்ணணும் ஜி அது பண்ணணும் ஜி அப்படின்னு தவிக்கிறாரு. ம். அண்ட் அது ஒரு வகையா வேலையோட எண்ணியும் இருக்குல்ல. அது அது ஒரு வெறுமையான வேலை இல்லையா? அது அந்த வெறுமையை போக்கிக்கிறதுக்கு பல விஷயங்கள் தேவைப்படுது. மற்றவங்க மாதிரி அது போதையில் அதில் இதுல எல்லாம் போய் லாக் ஆகாம அவர் வந்து என்ன இம்சப்படுத்துறாரு அப்படின்னு பார்த்தா என்ன அவர் இம்சை பண்றாரு தான். ம். என்னை தூண்டி விட்டு தூண்டி விட்டு மோகனுக்கு என்ன சொன்னா அவர் ஆர்வம் ஆவாப்ல, அவர் எக்ஸைட் ஆவாப்ல. அது சொல்லி நாம வந்து நம்ம என்டர்டைன்மெண்ட்டை நடத்திப்போம் அப்படின்னு நடத்திக்கிறார். அந்த வகையில் அது நான் தப்புன்னு சொல்ல மாட்டேன். ஓகே. நான் என்னோட என்டர்டைன்மெண்ட்டை நடத்தும்போது அடுத்தவங்க என்னை வச்சுக்கிட்டு அவங்க என்டர்டைன்மெண்ட்டை நடத்தி கூடாதா என்ன? நியாயம் தான். நியாயம் தானே. ரெண்டும் படிச்சிட்டேன். ஒன்று வந்து விருச்சிக லக்னத்தில் வந்து இது பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு ஒன்று. அப்புறமா இன்னொன்னத்தை பற்றி நீங்கள் நியூஸ் ஐட்டம் அமிச்சிங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். எனக்கு அது படித்த மாதிரியே ஞாபகம் இருக்குது. ஆனால் ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் படிக்கலாம் நான் இதுக்கு முன்னாடி. ஆனால் அந்த நியூஸ் ஐட்டம் பார்த்தனா எப்படின்னு எனக்கு தெரியல அந்த இதில். அதான் நீங்களே எனக்கு அமிச்சிங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் அது நியூஸ் ஐட்டம் ஃபஸ்ட்டு. அதுக்கப்புறமா தான் ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் அனுப்பிச்சிருக்கீங்க. 2 ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் தான் அனுப்பிச்சிங்க. ரெண்டு எந்திரிச்சதுமே சரி ஃபஸ்ட்டு வேலை அதான் செஞ்சேன் நான். ரிச்சிக்கு லக்னமும் இன்னொன்று வந்து டேய் ரேப் பண்ணிட்ட கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்க இது வந்து பழைய ஹிந்தி பாலிவுட் சினிமா ஸ்டைலு நாங்கடா நீங்க பாக்ஸோ ம் 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 நாகரத்னம் ஜஸ்டிஸ் நாகரத்னம் எங்கடா போறீங்க நீங்க தெரில அது அது ஒரு 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 டிரான்சிஷன் ஸ்டேஜ்னு நினைக்கிறேன் இந்தியன் ஜுடிஷியரியில் இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்குமே அது அவங்க எல்லாருமே நான் நினைக்கிறேன் இந்த மாதிரியான டுபாக்கூ ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட்ஸ் கொடுக்குறவங்க எல்லாருமே சோஷியல் மீடியாவில் ஆக்டிவாக இருப்பாங்க. ம். 60 வயசுங்க எல்லாம் எல்லாம் சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட்டுக்கு வரதுக்குள்ள பெரும்பகுதி 60 வயசு இருந்துடும் எல்லாருக்கும். 68ஆ 65 தானே 65 மை லாட். ஸோ 65 60 ரைட் பாய் டேக் கேர் தேங்க்யூ ஃபார் நீங்கள் நீங்கள் வீட்டுக்கு வந்ததை எனக்கு இது பண்ணுங்க இல்லைன்னு முடிச்சு ஷூட்டு முடிஞ்சதுமே எனக்கு கால் பண்ணுங்கள். Okay, friends, that was my friend. I was talking to him. Sorry if you felt disoriented by my phone conversation because you don't. See, मेरी age 16 है. They have removed the phone numbers because they think somebody's phone number should not be given. I'll say something. 9 penta 4 5066. Let's see whether YouTube removes this. Let us see whether YouTube removes this. They do remove mail IDs and phone numbers. That's interesting. But if I say it in words, how will they remove that? 9444, like that. Let us see whether YouTube identifies this as a phone number and removes it. Let us check. Have put 9444 355 178 as phone number. I've given that phone number. Let's check whether YouTube is able to remove this. Okay, let me go back to my article. Okay, and there is another ceramic figurine showing Western influences, Yorkhan near Khotan, 2nd to 4th century AD. That is the image. That is the image. That is the image. During the Yongping period, 58 to 76 AD, in the reign of Emperor Ming, Xiongmu Ba, a Khotanese general, rebelled against Suoju Yarkand and made himself king of Yutian in 60 AD. On the death of Xiongmu Ba, Guangde, son of his elder brother, assumed power and then in 61 AD defeated Suoju on Yarkand. His kingdom became very prosperous after this. From Jingjue, near northwest, as far as Kashgar, 13 kingdoms submitted to him. Meanwhile, the king Shanshan, the Lopnor region, capital Charklik, had also begun to prosper. From then on, these two kingdoms were the only major ones on the southern route in the whole region to the east of Kongling, that is Pamir Mountains. King Guangde of Khotan submitted to the Han dynasty in 73 AD. Khotan at the time had relations with the Xiongnu, who during the reign of Emperor Ming of Han, that is from 57 to 75 AD, invaded Khotan and forced the Khotanese court to pay them large annual amounts of tribute in the form of silk and tapestries. When the Han military officer Ban Cha went to Khotan, he was received by the king with minimal courtesy. The soothsayer to the king suggested that he should demand the horse of Ban, and Ban killed the soothsayer on the spot. The king, impressed by Ban's action, then killed the Xianu agent in Khotan and offered his allegiance to Han. By the time the Han dynasty exerted its dominance over Khotan, the population had more than quadrupled. The book of the later Han, covering 6 to 189 AD, says, the main center of the kingdom of Yutian, that is Khotan, is the town of Xicheng, western town Yotkan. It is 5,300 li, 2,204 kilometers from the residence of the senior clerk in Lakshon, and 11,700 li or around 4,865 kilometers from Luoyang. It controls 32,000 households, 83,000 individuals, and more than 30,000 men able to bear arms. Han influence on Khotan, however, diminished when Han power declined. Tang dynasty. Man from Khotan, Yuktian, visiting the Chinese Tang dynasty court in Wanghuitu, circa 650 AD. The Tang campaign against the Oasis states began in 640 AD and Khotan submitted to the Tang emperor. The four garrisons of Angxi were established, one of them at Khotan. The Tibetans later defeated the Chinese and took control of the four garrisons. Khotan was first taken in 665 and the Khotanese helped the Tibetans to conquer Aksu. Tang China later regained control in 692. The Amst Lushan rebellion began in 755 and the Khotanese king sent some 5,000 troops to assist in the suppression efforts. The rebellion considerably weakened Tang control of Khotan, who completely lost the city in the following decades. After the Tang dynasty, Khotan formed an alliance with the rulers of Guyi Circuit. The Buddhist entities of Dunhuang and Khotan had a tight-knit partnership with intermarriage between Dunhuang and Khotan's rulers. Dunhuang's Mogao grottos and Buddhist temples were also funded and sponsored by the Khotan royals, whose likenesses were drawn in the Mogao grottos. Khotan was taken by the Tibetan Empire in 792, who capitalized on the weakness of the Tang dynasty and conquered much of Central Asia. Khotan would go on to gain its independence in 851. The first recorded post-Tibetan king of Khotan was Visashambhava, who used the Chinese name Li Shengtian and claimed to be a descendant of Tang dynasty imperial family. While using the Indic style title Lion King or Rajasimha, and the Near Eastern emperor-like title King of Kings. Vishasambhava also used the Chinese title Huangdi or Emperor in Khotan's Chinese language court documents and dressed in hats and robes of Chinese style. His son Vishasura used the combined title King of Kings of China, Chaiga Ramdana Radi, portrayed himself as a Chinese emperor in portraiture, used Chinese style imperial edicts signed with the character Qi, that is, edict, in imitation of the Tang and Song dynasties' edicts, and used a seal inscribed Han, son of heaven of great Khotan. Vishasambhava married the daughter of Chao Yijin, the ruler of the Gui Circuit. Chao Yijin's grandson, Chao Yanlu, married the third daughter of Vishasambhava. Indian deity on the obverse of a painted panel, most likely depicting Shiva. Bhutanese artist Visha Sangha or his father Visha Baisuna of 7th century. This is that image. Okay. Persian deity on the reverse of a painted panel, probably depicting the legendary hero Rustum. Kothanese artist Vishayira Sangha or his father Visha Baisuna, 7th century. Grotesque face, stucco, found at Khotan, 7th to 8th century. Human head ceramic with cow, Tang dynasty, Khotan Cultural Museum, China. Turco-Islamic conquest of Buddhist Khotan. Main article Islamicization and Turkicization of Xinjiang. The Kingdom of Khotan and main neighboring polities circa 1000. Khotan, Ghaznavid Empire, Buiz, Oghuz, Yabguz, Karakhanate Khanate. Portrait of Vishasambhava, a 10th century king of Khotan, Mogao Caves, Dunhuang, Gansu province. Vishasambhava. In the 10th century, the Iranic Saka Buddhist kingdom of Khotan was the only city-state in the Tarim Basin that was not yet conquered by either the Turkic Uyghur Kocho kingdom, which is Buddhist, or by the Turkic Karakhanate Khanate, which was Muslim. During the later part of the 10th century, Khotan became engaged in a struggle against the Karakhanate Khanate. The Islamic conquests of the Buddhist cities east of Kashgar began with the conversion of the Karakhanate Sultan Satuk Bughra Khan to Islam in 934. Satuk Bughra Khan and later his son Musa directed endeavors to proselytize Islam along the Turks and engage in military conquests, and a long war ensued between Islamic Kashgar and Buddhist Khotan. Satuk Bughra Khan's nephew or grandson Ali Aslan was said to have been killed during the war with the Buddhists. Khotan briefly took Kashgar from the Karakhanids in 970, and according to Chinese accounts, the king of Khotan offered to send in tribute to the Chinese court a dancing elephant captured from Kashgar. Accounts of the war between the Karakhanid and Khotan were given in Tazkira of the four sacrificed imams, written sometime in the period from 1700 to 1849 in the Eastern Turkic language or modern Uyghur in Altishar, probably based on an older oral tradition. It contains a story about four imams from Madain city, possibly in modern day Iraq, who helped the Karakhanid leader Yusuf Qadir Khan conquered Khotan, Yarkand, and Kashgar. There were years of battles where blood flows like the oxus, heads litter the battlefield like stones until the infidels were defeated and driven towards Khotan by Yusuf Qadir Khan and the four imams. The imams, however, were assassinated by the Buddhists prior to the last Muslim victory. Despite their foreign origins, they are viewed as local saints by the current Muslim population in the region. In 1006, the Muslim Karakhanid ruler Yusuf Qadir Khan of Kashgar conquered Khotan, ending Khotan's existence as an independent Buddhist state. Some communications between Khotan and Song China continued intermittently, but it was noted in 1063 in a song source that the ruler of Khotan referred to himself as Karakan, indicating dominance of the Karakanids over Khotan. Oh, sorry guys, I was sending message to my friend. Okay, that was also removed by. So that's interesting. So even if numbers are given in different format, YouTube is able to identify it. The algorithm is able to identify it and remove it. So let me try it in Hindi. So I have put it in मैं हिंदी में डाल दिया मेरा दूरवाणी नंबर को दूरभाषी नंबर को देखेंगे कि वाईटी का यूट्यूब का एल्गोरिदम इसे भी पहचान के रिमूव करेगा कि नहीं देख लेंगे. Okay, my phone is on low battery. Put it in charge. Okay, some message has come up. I don't know what it says. Probably it says phone is on low battery. Okay. Goodness, it has been pressed for long. Unfortunate. One usually associates car festivals solely with Hindu temples and the temple of Jagannath or Vishnu at Puri in particular. But in early times, the Buddhists too held these festivals every year in the spring, and the Chinese pilgrim Fahian has left us a glowing account of them. On his way to India, Fahian passed through Khotan circa 400 AD, and it was here where he witnessed a Buddhist car festival. The king of Khotan was a strong supporter of Buddhism, lodged Fahian in a monastery called Gomati, where he remained for 3 months, partly with the object of seeing this important spring festival for himself. He says, from the first day of the fourth month, they sweep and water the roads within the city and decorate the streets. Above the city gate, they stretch a great awning and use every kind of ornament. This is where the king and the queen and court ladies take their place. The Gomati priests, as they belong to the great vehicle, which is principally honored by the king, first of all take their images in procession. About 3 or 4 leaves from the city, they make a four-wheeled image car about 30 feet high, in appearance like a moving palace adorned with the seven precious substances. They fix upon it streamers of silk and canopy curtains, that is, canopies covered with cloth. The image of the Buddha is placed in the car with two bodhisattvas as companions, whilst the devas or gods attend on them. All kinds of polished ornaments made of gold and silver hang suspended in the air. When the image is 100 paces from the gate, the king takes off his royal cap and, changing his clothes for new ones, proceeds barefooted with flowers and incense in his hand from the city, followed by his attendants. On meeting the image, he bows down his head and worships at its feet, scattering the flowers and burning the incense. On the cars entering the city, the queen and court ladies from above the gate tower scatter about all kinds of flowers and throw them down in wild profusion. So splendid are the arrangements for worship. The cars are all different, and each Sangharama, that is monastery, has a day set apart for its image procession. They begin on the first day of the fourth month and go on to the 14th day when the processions end. The processions ended, the king and queen then returned to the palace. That these car processions were general throughout India at the time of Fahian's visit seems certain, because when he reached the ancient city of Pataliputra, now the modern town of Patna in Bihar, he had the good fortune to witness another of these Buddhist festivals, which he describes as follows. Every year, on the eighth day of the second month, there is a procession of images. On this occasion, they construct a four-wheeled car and erect upon it a tower of 5 stages composed of bamboos lashed together, the whole being supported by a center post resembling a large spear with 3 points, Trisula, in height 22 feet pagoda. They then cover it over with fine white linen which they afterwards paint with gaudy colors. Having made figures of the Devas and decorated them with gold, silver, and glass, they place them under canopies, that is, umbrellas of embroidered silk. Then, at the four corners of the car, they construct niches or shrines in which they place figures of Buddha in a sitting posture with a bodhisattva standing in attendance. There are perhaps 20 cars thus prepared and differently decorated. During the day of the procession, both priests and laymen assemble in great numbers. There are games and music whilst they offer flowers and incense. The Buddhas, that is, the images in the cars, then, one after the other, enter the city where they halt. Then, all night long, they burn lamps, indulge in games and music, and make religious offerings. From this description, we may presume that the festive cars of ancient India were similar in style and construction to those existing today. Fahian's remark that the cars looked like pagodas is interesting as it indicates that in the 5th century AD, the temples of India were storied wooden buildings similar to the existing pagodas of China and Japan. Modern festival cars are temporary wooden structures decorated with colored cloths and streamers and designed to stimulate the stone temples to which they belong. The substructure is strongly built of wood and is usually richly carved. The four wheels are often of solid stone and sometimes measure 6 feet in diameter. The cornice of the more important car, sorry, the cornice of the more important cars is often ornamented with a row of metal bells. This portion of the car is a permanent structure, but the superstructure is a temporary wooden scaffolding covered with colored cloths specially made for the purpose and surmounted by a big ceremonial umbrella, given in figure 6. In this example, the car simulates a South Indian temple with a triple terraced roof. This temporary shrine contains a wooden pedestal on which the metal image is fixed and a doorway in front, on each side of which is a painted figure of a doorkeeper with a club. The tubular streamers hanging from the roof all round the car appear to be in imitation of temple pillars, which are often painted with red and white bands at festival times. The cars are dragged in procession by means of strong cables attached to the axle trees. Page 9 of the Stupa by Longhurst. Longhurst's book, The Stupa. The car illustrated here is a fine specimen and is richly carved and belongs to a wealthy temple. Those belonging to the poorer temples are very humble structures, no better than the Kota funeral car shown in figure 5. In fact, the only real difference between the two is that one has wheels and the other has not. And it seems that in early times also there was very little difference between the two types of cars, as may be gathered from the accounts left us by the Chinese pilgrims cited above. A number of curious rock-cut tombs have been discovered on the west coast of India from time to time, and these I shall describe here as they seem to be intimately connected with our present purpose. The tombs are always discovered by accident, usually by workmen engaged in quarrying the soft laterite stone peculiar to that part of India. They exist in the Chirakkal and Calicut taluks of Malabar and in several other places on the west coast. The tombs are excavated out of the rock, circular and plan, with a domed roof supported by a thick, round, monolithic pillar. The pillar tapers from the top to the bottom, a most unusual feature, resembling in this respect the pillars in the palace of the Minoan kings at Knossos in Crete. The example shown in figure 7 was discovered at Chevayur, a village about 5 miles inland from Calicut, and I inspected the tomb a few days after its discovery in 1911. Figure 7. Let's see what is this figure 7. This is 16. So 7 must be somewhere here, yes. So 7. What was 6? 6 is the Hindu festival car. Okay. This is the figure. This is the figure that I am currently focusing on. So the top is the plan where in the middle of the round there is a pillar opening made by quarrymen. Below the ground level there is an opening made by quarrymen and it leads to a chamber with a niche and beyond the pillar are two big jars, actually one big jar and one medium sized jar and two small pot like jars actually. So scale is roughly 1 centimeter to feet. Rock cut tomb near Calicut. That is 1 inch is around 3 feet, I guess. Okay, some messages are coming. I don't know what they are, why they are coming. Maybe I should check that. Maybe I should check what are all the messages I'm receiving on the phone. Okay. ये नंबर क्यों? Okay. What are all the messages I've been getting? Ignore this time. Okay. It's been 2 hours. Rihan Rajput said hi. And रिहान राजपूत टू ये नंबर क्यों मेरी एज 16 है 9 4 4 3 5 5 1 7 8 ओके nobody is watching right now मुझे नदियाँ पसंद हैं नीली परी पीली परी कमरे में बंद है ओके messages get deleted if they are in English, but if they are in Hindi, they are not getting deleted. Okay, let me put it over there. There is still some power left in the phone, 15%. Let's see how long it counts. It's maybe 3 to 4 hours. Okay, let's just check whether everything is right. What happened? Subscriptions. உண்மையாதலின் okay, it's all right. Okay. Okay, it is charging. It will take a long time to get charged. The example shown in figure 7 was discovered at Chevayur, a village about 5 miles inland from Calicut, and I inspected the tomb a few days after its discovery in 1911. A few feet below the ground, which is of laterite rock, the quarrymen came across the roof of the tomb by accident. The entrance had been carefully closed with blocks of stone so that there was nothing about to indicate that the tomb existed below. On clearing the entrance, which faces the west, the sepulchre was found to consist of a small round cell with a domed roof supported in the center by a rock-cut pillar. Standing on the floor were 25 wheel-made red earthenware cinerary urns and domestic vessels. The larger urns were similar to the big one shown in figure 13 and provided with four little legs, while others had pointed bases. Let's see figure 13. 13. What is this? 2. Where is 13? Okay, these are the urns found in it. Okay. The larger urns were similar to the big one shown in figure 13 and provided with four little legs, while others had pointed bases inserted in pottery ring stands to enable them to stand upright. The food and water pots were similar to the smaller vessels shown in figure 13, types which are common at the present day. This is figure 13. In some of these tombs, iron implements and weapons have been found, showing that they belong to the early Iron Age. This tomb appears from the contents found in it to have been a family sepulchre designed to represent a large umbrella 7 feet 6 inches in diameter, overshadowing and protecting the relics of dead ancestors, perhaps those of some local chief. Another type of tomb found in the same district, also excavated out of the laterite rock, is the Kodakallu or Kodakallu. I think it's Kodakallu umbrella stone, so called. On account of the big monolithic umbrella shaped stone which closes the entrance into the sepulchre. Figure 8. So this is the plan of that Kodakallu as given in Longhurst's book. So basically there is an umbrella stone on top at ground level, below which is an excavation into which a Kodakallu tomb, Malabar. The jar is 4 feet wide and 5 feet high. The Kallu is 2 feet thick and 6 feet wide. The ground line. This kind of tomb consists of a small chamber cut out of the laterite and big enough to admit a large pyriform red earthenware urn about 5 feet high and 4 feet wide, the mouth of which is closed with a rounded stone. This urn takes the place of a coffin or sarcophagus and contains a number of cinerary urns and domestic vessels similar to those described. The Kodakallu or circular covering slab rests on the natural ground and measures from 6 to 7 feet in diameter and about 2 feet in thickness and is monolithic. Its diameter is thus about the same as that of the rock cut tomb at Chevayur. This great stone not only closes the entrance to the sepulchre, but being cut in the form of an honorific umbrella canopy, it serves the double purpose of protecting and honoring the dead at the same time. The occurrence of these massive half-baked earthenware urns in the excavated chambers of the Kodakallu seems to supply the necessary link between society, ancient and modern. For the Malayalis, still adhere to the practice of using small cinerary urns, but in these days, the calcined bones of the dead are placed in the urns as a temporary resting place only and are, as soon as convenient, removed and cast into some holy river. Formerly, there seems to have been no intention of ever disturbing the relics after they were put into the family sepulchre. The shape of some of these urns perhaps affords a clue to the idea which originally suggested this mode of burial. In some specimens, the bottom of the urn thickens out into a circular shape, and through this protuberance, a small hole is drilled. It has been suggested that this peculiarity in construction is emblematic of the religious ideas connected with the earth goddess or Tellus, and that burial in this fashion was emblematic of the return of the individual to the womb of Mother Earth. The worship of the earth goddess probably came in with the advance in civilization, which taught men that the earth was fruitful if tilled, and possibly the transition from the excavated tomb period to the age when the burial urns began to be used marks a change from pastoral life to one of agriculture, and from a belief in the powers for good and evil of the spirits of the dead to one in which this belief began to be modified by the idea of an earth goddess who became the refuge of the dead. Besides the Kodakallu tombs just mentioned, there is yet another kind of umbrella monument found on the west coast which belongs to the same early period and is intimately connected with the former. It is also known locally as a Kodakallu or Kodakallu, owing to its resemblance to a crudely executed stone model of a ceremonial umbrella, given in figure 9. This is figure 9. That was figure 9. Let's see what is figure 9. Kodakallu Memorial, Malabar. They have put an umbrella shaped stone. These monuments are found in small groups, usually erected on sheet rock outside the villages and often on rising ground and from a distance resemble a crop of giant mushrooms. The stone canopy is similar in shape and size to that of the last example, but instead of resting on the ground, it is raised on a roughly hewn laterite pillar about 4 feet high. As nothing has been found beneath these monuments, it is obvious that they are not tombs but memorials to the dead, probably erected to mark the spot where the body was cremated. Cremation and burial grounds are always located outside the towns and villages, usually on some piece of wasteland strictly reserved for the purpose. The old Jain chiefs of South Canara each had their own private cremation ground known as the Bakimar, the field at the gate, because these fields were usually situated in front of the entrance to the chief's palace. Plenty of such fields still exist and will be referred to again later on. At a much later date, when the masons of southern India were more skilled in the art of stone carving, we find these memorial umbrellas really imposing monuments with a quiet dignity of their own, as at Gavipuram near Bangalore. The history of this quaint monument is unknown, but we may presume that it was erected in the Middle Ages in honor of some local chief or an important religious head whose body was cremated near the spot. Several stone umbrellas of this kind exist in the neighborhood of Bangalore, set up in temple courtyards. Similar specimens are also met with in Burma. It seems probable that the first umbrellas set up as memorials to the dead were of wood and that it was their perishable nature which led to the idea of executing them in stone as permanent memorials. But even when of stone, the ease with which such top heavy monuments could be wantonly or accidentally destroyed explains why so few specimens remain. These primitive memorials to the dead show what a profound influence the umbrella motif had over the religious life of the people of pre Buddhist India. So it is not surprising to find that in later times it had a remarkable effect on the evolution of the architecture of that country, as we shall see in the following pages. Okay, so this is what he thinks stupa began from. This is Longhurst's The Story of the Tupa, the story of the Stupa book. I am reading this book right now, today. So, guys, anybody has any questions? Has anybody sent me any question or something? Nobody has any queries? Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, let's just put it in charge. I'm getting hungry. I'm becoming hungry. I'm feeling hungry. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Hmm. Okay, guys, let me go to the restroom and be back. I'll be back in a minute. I think 50, 30, 35% can come. So 15% is for 1 hour, roughly 1 hour. Taking rest. Okay, let me read chapter 2. We'll go to chapter 2, Longhurst's book, The Story of the Stupa. Chapter 2, The Evolution of the Stupa. The commonest kind of ancient sepulchre found in southern India and the Deccan is the tumulus, the prototype of the Buddhist stupa or tomb. These tumuli are low circular mounds of earth surrounded by a ring of big boulders firmly planted in the ground to keep the tumulus in position and to mark the sacred spot. Figure 11. 11, 11, 11, 11. Let's see, 11. Chambered tumulus, Madras. Okay. Occasionally, there is an outer circle of stones around the cairn, enclosing a processional path. There is an outer circle of stones around the cairn, enclosing a processional path and sacred precinct. The tumuli are either chambered or unchambered. The former can be large or small rectangular chamber built of roughly hewn slabs of granite arranged like the sides and ends of a box. Figure 12. A single slab forms the lid or roof, and when opened, they yield a number of wheel-made pottery vessels and cinerary urns like those already described. Okay. Sometimes the front slab of the tomb, which usually faces the east, has a round hole about 9 inches in diameter cut through the center of the slab, or instead of this small opening, the front is provided with a small stone lined passage leading into the tomb, the entrance being closed with a stone slab securely fixed in the ground. The smaller chambers appear to be the graves of single persons, while the large chambers with the openings in front represent family vaults. And as members of the family died, their cremated remains were placed in urns which were passed through the openings, which were promptly closed again. It is impossible to believe that these massively built chambers were opened on each successive occasion of a death, as the labor of opening one from top to bottom would be almost equal to the construction of a new tomb. The unchambered tumuli have only a floor of stone slabs about 6 feet below the ground, or no floor at all. On this, the remains of the dead, together with the usual offerings, were deposited and covered with earth. Then, as a rule, 2 or 3 big heavy blocks of stone were placed on top of the remains, presumably to prevent the spirits of the dead from returning to earth and causing trouble to the living. It seems that these massively built megalithic graves were the outcome of an intense fear of the evil spirits of the dead rather than to a feeling of affection for the departed, a fear which still survives among all primitive tribes in India at the present day. Primitive tumuli of this kind existed in India long before the advent of Buddhism, and they are not peculiar to any particular caste or community, but it was, however, the Buddhists who developed this type of tomb on lines of their own until at last it became the main feature of their architecture. The chief purpose for which stupas were erected by the Buddhists was to serve as monuments enclosing relics of the Buddha or of Buddhist saints, which were placed in a reliquary enclosed in a stone coffer over which the stupa was built. Some, however, contained no relics but were merely commemorative of important events in the Buddha's life. When they contained relics, the shrine was known as a Dhatu Garbha. In Pali, Dhatu Gabbo, Sinhalese, Dagaba. And as most stupas were erected over relics or dhatu, the whole structure came to be called a dagaba. In Tibet, they are known as chortens, and in northern India, the Anglo-Indian word top is usually applied to stupas. At the present day, stupa, top, or dagaba is a name common to each kind of tumulus, whether it be the solid rock cut monument dedicated to the Supreme Being, the masonry mound enclosing relics of the Buddha or of Buddhist saints, or the purely memorial stupa erected on some celebrated spot. The earliest stupas were low circular brick mounds resembling in outline the humble prototypes of the pre-Buddhist period. Thus, one of the oldest examples, the brick stupa at Piprahua on the Nepal frontier, stands only about 22 feet high with a basal diameter of 116 feet. As time went on and the building arts progressed, the relative height increased. The well-known Sanchi Stupa in central India, erected much later, is 54 feet high, while the basal diameter is 120 feet. The proportional height here is just about half, while at Piprahua it is less than one-fifth. In this manner, the age of a stupa may be determined approximately from its shape and size, the earliest being a simple hemisphere and the latest a lofty round brick tower standing on a high terraced platform. The famous stupas of Bharhut, Sanchi, and Amaravati have been so often described and illustrated by different writers on Indian art that one is apt to regard these once magnificent Buddhist shrines as typical examples of stupas. But as a matter of fact, stupas of this class were the exception. Most of the stupas erected during the reign of the great Ashoka, that is from 273 to 242 BC, were very humble little brick and plaster structures surrounded by a wooden railing with open gateways facing the cardinal points. A good description of early stupas of this kind will be found in General Cunningham's book, The Bilsa Tops. And the following account of the little Andher Stupa is taken from that work. I have selected this monument in particular as its age is known with some degree of certainty. It is built in the usual early form of a bare hemisphere resting on a low circular platform 23 feet in diameter and 3 feet 9 inches in height. The stupa itself is only 15 feet in diameter and was originally about 17 feet high. Andher Stupa, Bhopal State. Figure 14. Sorry. Inside the chamber was a small red earthenware urn covered with a lid containing a small steatite reliquary filled with fragments of calcined bone. On the outside of the reliquary is engraved the following inscription: Relics of the emancipated Haritiputra. It is known that this Haritiputra was one of the principal Buddhist teachers during the reign of Ashoka. So the age of this interesting little monument can therefore be fixed with more or less certainty. It is interesting to note how closely the construction of the relic chamber resembles that of the stone coffers found in the chamber of the pre-Buddhist period. The stupas erected over the remains of ordinary members of the Buddhist community were very humble little structures. The ashes of the dead were placed in an earthenware pot and covered with a lid, and the humble little stupa erected over it. Plenty of Buddhist stupas of this class may still be seen in the Presidency and also in Ceylon. As all the early structural stupas in India are in ruins, most of them having been destroyed by seekers after treasure, we have to fall back on sculptural representations of them in order to form a correct idea of their appearance when complete. Fortunately, we have plenty of material for this purpose. A good example is shown in figure 15, a bas relief from one of the Sanchi gateways. Figure 15, bas relief from one of the Sanchi gateways. That is this. This is that. This is that Sanchi bas relief. Okay, Sanchi bas relief, early type of stupa. Stupa. 200 BC. This was common about 200 BC. So there is this dome-like stupa and there is a railing around it, a double railing actually, and on top a railing like T is constructed on top of it, and there is an umbrella on top of everything. Okay, okay. And there are fern-like trees represented also. Maybe they'll call them palms or whatever. Okay, let's see what he says about this image. Here, the stupa represents a small structure similar to the Andher example. It represents a brick stupa covered with plaster, standing on a low circular drum and surrounded by the usual wooden railing. Halfway up the dome is a row of horn-like wooden pegs driven into the face of the brickwork so as to serve as supports for the garlands festooned around the dome. Most stupas seem to have been decorated in this manner, originally with garlands of fresh flowers, the gifts of pious devotees, but in later times the garland became a conventional architectural ornament executed in plaster, and the row of pegs being no longer necessary disappeared. Oh, so that is the origin of the flower motif on stupas. The four human figures portrayed standing around the base of the monument represent worshippers, while on the left is a king with his umbrella bearer behind him, seated on an elephant, apparently just arrived at the holy shrine and about to dismount from the elephant. Above the stupa, two winged cherubs are depicted bringing garlands to decorate the summit of the shrine. The curious simulated wooden structure surmounting the stupa is known to Indian archaeologists as the T, an anglicized form of the Burmese word Thi, by which this member is now generally known. Okay, on the left, okay, there is this king who has come on his elephant and who has dismounted and is worshipping, probably. Okay. The tea has disappeared from all the structural stupas in India, but its form may be seen from stupas surviving in Ceylon and Burma, as well as from stone models and sculptural representations preserved in great numbers in India. The box-like nature of construction depicted in these carved representations of teas and the fact that all the structural teas have perished, presumably destroyed by treasure seekers when Buddhism declined in India, indicates that originally they were wooden coffers or receptacles for valuable offerings presented to the shrine by pious worshippers. The four sides of the tea are usually decorated with a rail ornament, a sure indication of a simulated wooden structure, while the lid of the tea is portrayed as consisting of two or three superimposed slabs of wood or stone. Figure 15. In all these sculptural representations of stupas, the tea is always shown surmounted by an umbrella or a group of umbrellas to which banners or streamers are sometimes added. This umbrella finial was known in ancient India as the Chatravali, while in Burma it is called tea as mentioned above. The installation of this architectural member was and is still is a very important and often costly religious ceremony because before the Chatravali was fixed in position on the summit of a stupa or a temple, valuable offerings in the form of gold coins or jewels were placed beneath it and built into its foundations. The Brahmins followed the same custom when installing a kalasa or gilt copper finial on the summit of their temples. As this custom still prevails and is well known in India, whenever a stupa or a temple fell into disuse, thieves immediately removed these crowning ornaments and stole the offerings placed beneath them. This is one of the chief reasons why all the structural teas have disappeared in India and also explains why so many ancient Hindu temples no longer used for worship are minus their kalasas. In the Sinhalese Chronicle, the Mahavamsa, we have a graphic account of the building and dedication of the Mahatupa or Great Stupa in Ceylon. In the reign of King Duttagamini circa 101 to 77 BC, to enshrine a relic of the Buddha obtained from India. From this account, we learn that the foundations of this stupa were of rough stone trodden down by elephants, and on this foundation the brick stupa was built. The relic chamber was formed of 6 slabs of stone and faced the east. One slab was placed flat and formed the floor of the chamber. 4 were arranged like the sides of a box, and the sixth was the lid. The construction of the relic chamber was thus similar in all respects to the stone built chamber illustrated in figure 12, and it must have been quite as large as the account mentions the king stepping down into it. The Buddha relics, which were in a golden casket, were placed in the chamber by the king himself, who also made an offering of all the royal ornaments on his person, his ministers and others in attendance doing likewise. After the dedication ceremony was over, the big dome was built over the relic chamber. The king then dedicated his state umbrella to the stupa, exclaiming with joy, "Thrice over do I dedicate my kingdom to the Redeemer of the world, the divine teacher, the bearer of the triple canopy, the canopy of the heavenly host, the canopy of mortals, and the canopy of eternal emancipation." The king then permitted his royal umbrella to remain on the summit of the stupa for 7 days, when it was subsequently replaced by a stone or wooden model of the same. At this time, when only the plastering of the dome and the fixing of the permanent umbrella on top of the tea remained to be done, the king fell sick, and as he was on the point of death, he enjoined his young brother Tissa to complete that great work. We are told that Tissa quickly recovered the dome of the stupa with a white cloth so as to resemble plaster, and raised a cloth umbrella with a bamboo staff on top of the tea. and then announced to the king that the stupa was finished. The dying monarch was carried to the spot and laid on a carpet opposite the southern entrance, where, after gazing with delight on the holy shrine, he breathed his last. The stupa was completed by Tissa, who succeeded him on the throne of Ceylon. It is also recorded that between the years 79 and 89 AD, the Raja Amandagamani erected another umbrella on the T of the Mahatupa, and lastly, Raja Sirinaga between 249 and 268 AD gilded the two umbrella canopies of the great stupa. It is clear from this description of the building and dedication of the Mahatupa in Ceylon how these state umbrellas came to be connected with the early stupas. In all probability, it was during the reign of Ashoka, after he made Buddhism the religion of the state, that the royal umbrella first became associated with the stupa in India. These emblems of sovereignty are portrayed in the bas reliefs and stone models as fixed to the lid of the tea in such a manner as made it impossible for anyone to open or tamper with the tea without first removing the umbrella. In this manner, the umbrella seems to have been a means of proclaiming to the public that the stupas were under the protection of the state. All important stupas were provided with wooden railings, vedika, and gateways, torana, at the four cardinal points, enclosing a processional path around the shrine. Of the existing specimens, the best known are those belonging to the Sanchi Stupa in Bhopal state. Ordinarily, the railings and gateways were of wood, but where durability was considered of paramount importance, these wooden structures were occasionally copied in stone, probably by royal